your dad's in real estate,
Yeah.
right? Did you always know you wanted to be in real estate too?
No, I wanted to do anything but real estate.
Because of that, right?
Because he was in real
Naturally.
estate, yeah. In the beginning, it was really tough, you know, because I wasn't really even sure what a lead was, but it was just me. I was like, I at least know if I keep doing this over time, like I'll get better at it. But it honestly took me a really, really long time to actually get a lead to the finish line.
You really took the bull by the horns and you owned that moment and you rose to the occasion and it turned into an incredible deal.
If we just went through the legal process and did like a traditional eviction, it would take 60 days, you know, at minimum. We negotiated cash for keys. I just kind of said the first number that came to my head, I was like, hey, we could probably do 1,000. And they all agreed. Everyone was on the same page. I've been following up with them. Everyone was good to move. They had the moving truck and I wanted to make sure I did a sweep before I gave them the money. And so I go to the back house. I think there's someone in the shed. And he's like, no, like you're just kind of, you're hearing things. Like, all right. While we're walking up, they just come out the door and they're like guns ablaze and they're like, we've been living here for 3 years. Like this is our home.
Yo, you want to ride?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Let's roll. The miracle man right here.
Let's get it.
Let's go, baby. All right, let's blow this joint. All right, man. So you're a sports guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You had a big career at Cal Poly, right? What was it like? Tell me what your experience was like being a wrestler at Cal Poly.
Man, it was awesome. It was really hard in the beginning because you go from like being a big fish in a real small part in high school,
yeah,
and you go in and you're just wrestling like grown men, you know. So I think
right, dude. So I say, people ask me like, "Hey, what was it like in the NFL? Was it crazy, like going from college to the NFL?" I continue to say the biggest shift was going from high school to college.
Yeah, it's gnarly, man.
Because like gnarly. You're maturing a lot during those years.
100%, and questioning like the whole time. I remember questioning like, I have a voice memo on my phone, but I was like, I don't know if I'm made for this. Like I was just getting my butt.
Did you record a voice memo?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I still listen from time to time, but it was really, really cool, and we had a really good culture, and it was really tough in the beginning. But when I first got in, a big part of the reason why I wanted to go was because it was kind of a rebuilding year, and we weren't really good anymore, and so I wanted to be a part of the program and build, and kind of was able to do that. It was a lot of fun doing it.
That's cool. So, being a sports guy, I can't help but to think you're built a little different.
I'd hope
right?
so.
Tell me what sports had done for you to kind of help prepare you for the life you're living now as an entrepreneur and the things that you're working on.
Yeah, I think especially being in wrestling, I mean, it's a pretty much a pride-only sport. There's no money in it.
Yeah.
And you train, you know.
This is the money shot right here. Check this.
Oh, I love this, man.
Ooh, let's go.
This is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, you train like 2 hours a day at minimum, you know, not including any workouts, for 6 minutes of match time.
Yeah.
So you're training constantly, and I think what it has really taught me is like really delaying the cheese at the end of the race, you know, and just pushing it further and further down, and kind of allowing yourself to really just fall in love with the work, because in wrestling you have to fall in love with the journey, because if you're only focused on the outcome, well, you're gonna get your ass kicked and you're gonna quit, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's so true, man. Like you spend a lot of time getting up to that short little moment that you get to shine, and it's kind of similar to what we do in real estate, where you'll spend a lot of time that will get to that end result of you making money.
100%.
Right. So how do you think that transition for you to like be able to continue to put in the work to get there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, my coaches used to say it in college all the time, but they would always say, fall in love with the process and not the outcome. And it didn't really make sense to me then. And it honestly didn't really start making sense to me until I got into real estate, to be honest, because I was realizing a lot of times in real estate, because it's ebbs and flows, right? Some months are great, some months are bad, some months are great. You kind of, as long as you're doing the right things, it should be continually increasing, but trying to put the focus more on just like, okay, am I getting better at the things that, am I getting better on the phones? Am I getting better at closing deals? Am I getting better at making connections? And I think when you focus on that, the money eventually comes. Whereas if you're only focusing on the money, it can get a little bit demotivating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with sports, like you're going to have those down days where like training didn't go as well.
Yeah.
You got your ass whooped in the match, you know what I mean? Like
100%.
And the same is true with the life as an entrepreneur. Like there's a lot of ups and downs. So Yeah, I can't help but think that the consistency, the everything that I have with sports and what you have with sports contributes a lot to like us sticking with it.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
What do you feel like for you? I know you're asking me a bunch of questions, but what do you feel like for you is one of the bigger lessons that you've been able to draw from being in football and being at a high level to drawing it into real estate?
I'd say no doubt that my secret sauce, like my biggest skill wasn't that I say this all the time, I wasn't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, the most athletic. It was just that I was willing to play till the end of the whistle. I was willing to give it everything I freaking had. And I stayed consistently doing that. It wasn't like I was out partying and so I was just, dragging ass the next day and not able to give it my own. Like, I was dedicated, I was focused, and when I'm committed to something, that's what I'm doing. I might not get the best result one day, but I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and I'm going to keep giving it everything I got, and that's what, continued to allow me to elevate and get to the next level.
I think that's awesome. I honestly relate to that a lot because, like, in college, I wasn't really the best guy on the team. I started for 3 years, but every time I would wrestle, I would always get the crowd hyped, and it was very similar to what you said. Like, I never quit. I could be losing by a shit ton, but I was just always going until the end of the whistle. I think there's a lot of people don't do that. Yeah,
for sure. So your dad's in real estate, right? Did you always know you wanted to be in real estate too?
No. I wanted to do anything but real estate.
Because of that, right?
Because he was in real estate.
My parents were entrepreneurs. Nope, didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Your dad's in real estate. Nope, don't want to be in real estate. So, what do you feel like was the moment that made that belief shift?
Yeah, I can tell you the exact moment. So I was in college. A lot of my teammates during summer were like kind of just partying and not really doing a whole lot, playing video games during the summer. I didn't want to do that. I always liked working. So I was working at the sandwich shop, and I was like kind of a social butterfly, and I like kind of lined up a internship, and then COVID hit, and then that internship kind of evaporated. And so because at the time I thought it was gonna be financial services, which thank God now that I'm not, because I'm not good with numbers.
You don't want to just sit in front of a spreadsheet?
No, I could not. I could never do that. And so I showed up on my dad's doorstep, and I was like, hey, like, reluctantly, I was like, I don't know what to do during the summer, but I don't want to spend it partying and just doing nothing. Like, I'd rather learn something. So can I work for you? And he's like, I don't know what I can have you do, but I'm trying to do this thing with real estate. Like, he just started having me file for him a little bit. And then he's like, I'm also trying to grow the investment arm. Maybe you can take a meeting with Jason Pritchard. And so did that. And then after leaving that meeting, I was like so jazzed up. And immediately, like a week later, I started hitting the phones and just fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since.
So before we met, talk about what some of that journey was like for you at the beginning part of your real estate journey, hitting the phones. Talk about what that experience was like for you.
In the beginning, I mean, it was like exciting. It was also really brutal. I was kind of like, I think a little bit more thin skinned because you hop on the phones thinking like you're going to get a deal, and then you just get cussed at for like a majority of the phone calls. And then you start talking to people that you think are sellers because they start saying like numbers like, oh yeah, I'd sell for like astronomical prices. But at the time you don't have the discernment of like deciding what like a real lead is versus someone that's just blowing smoke. And so like, it's like a lot of ebb and flow because like you get these high highs because you're like, oh, this is a lead, and you work it and then it's not actually a lead, but you just spend all your time doing it. And then it's also the super lows because you're not getting anywhere with these leads. And so in the beginning it was really tough, because I wasn't really even sure what a lead was, but it was just me. I was like, I at least know if I keep doing this over time, like I'll get better at it. But it honestly took me a really, really long time to actually get a lead to the finish line. And I never, for the first couple of years, I had never gotten a lead to the finish line myself. What I would do is I would just call these leads, and then if it was a person that was likely to sell, then I would just book the appointment for my dad. And then he's picked up 3 or 4 of his rentals that way through leads that I've done. And then my buddy also called too. So that's kind of how it was in the first couple of years.
Yeah. So tough. So when you and your dad joined the coaching program, that's what you were doing before. Right. So you're pounding the phones, doing all that kind of stuff, grinding through it, getting smacked in the face. Day in, day again.
100%.
Did you ever like feel like giving up?
All the time. Yeah, for sure. Because when I was cold calling, I would go back to college. And so I was still wrestling, and then I had school, and I was at Cal Poly, and Cal Poly is not like the easiest school in the world. So I was doing that and then wrestling, and then I was making cold calls kind of in between that. And so there were tons of moments because it was like I was only getting paid if I closed a deal. And so, but to close a deal, I had to be calling leads. So a lot of it was just like, am I doing the right thing? I'm not really making that much money. And I mean, all the time it was like setback and just kind of pushing through a little bit. And it wasn't really until I graduated college that I really started hitting it full time and really kind of deciding this is what I wanted to do.
So what pushed you to keep going?
I get a really bad taste in my mouth knowing that I'm close to something and giving up.
Yeah.
You know, and I felt like I deserved to give it a good college try before deciding it wasn't for me. You know?
Yeah.
And I hadn't done that yet.
So at that point, everything led up to the moment you joined the coaching program, and we'll get back to that after this break.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you want to learn more about how you can join my community where I'm going to work with you hands-on, make sure you click that link down below. Let's go.
All right. You ready to go hit this cue spot?
Let's do it.
Let's go. And usually, a normal tide, just a normal everyday tide, the water comes in right here, it splashes against this wall, and it just spits up like super high, and then splashes all down. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so we were talking about everything you led up to, basically of you joining the coaching program.
Yeah.
Tell me what it was like being in the coaching program. Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. A lot of kind of where I was struggling is I kind of always lacked confidence. And I think being around people that have kind of been there, done that yourself, and then also people kind of in the program with me to kind of see like, because I'd already been doing this kind of stuff for a couple of years. And then I see people that are like, have less experience than me and then maybe seeing some success, and it kind of makes, especially like the sports guy in me, I'm like, oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like, if they can do it, like I know I can, you know? So like that alone was like super helpful. And then just like, I mean, the going to the deal that we closed together, I mean, the whole time it was like, I'd get off the phone and then I'd call you and like, you have all of the experience of like negotiating and stuff. So it was really, a lot of the parts is you lack the confidence to kind of do it. And I was like, I don't know, but you had all the reps and all the experience. So I was like, no, you say this is what's
Go say this.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're like, are you sure? I'm like, say it with confidence.
100%. So.
Wait, I'm going to come in that low? You know, like, let's talk about that deal. Because that was like really fun deal to work through. Had a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on with this. So let's talk about that deal.
Yeah, so that was probably, I cannot remember how I came across the lead. I think I cold called it myself like a year and a half before then.
Yeah.
And I just followed up like, you know, every month or so for a year and a half. And then like it would be Christmas time and I'd say, hey, Merry Christmas. Like, you guys still looking to sell? And we actually walked the property probably a year before we made an offer and got something done. So, but we were too low then and they just weren't ready. So I just kept following up and we got to the point and she actually reached out to me. She said, hey, you've been so consistent, like we're ready to sell. And so, but we were, no talks of price yet. I was like, I just got to book the appointment. I need to be the first one there. I don't want to call anyone else. Yeah. So we walked the property again, and then that was kind of the time to start negotiating. And what was crazy is the offer price that you had kind of suggested that would be at was like significantly lower than the price that was already turned down.
I know.
Yeah, so that, I mean, it was cool. And then like actually like getting it locked up, I mean,
let's talk about why did that work? Why did we get it for less than the price that was already too low last time?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, there was a level of motivation that was there that wasn't before.
Yep.
And so I think that, especially in the beginning, like that's something that you don't really know. So definitely way more motivated. Things happened in the family and they were ready to sell. The second part to that is I wasn't like just negotiating. It wasn't like me against them. It was, and this is something I learned from you and I still try to use, is like, well, I got to talk to my team. You know, this is kind of what they're saying, because you guys were kind of the big bad wolf, so to speak.
Right. Yep.
And then I would come back and like, hey, for me to really, I'm trying to go at bat for you, but this is kind of where we're at, like, or where they're at, like, you know, is there any wiggle room there? and it really, like, she was kind of pulling me more towards her as opposed to me doing that for her. And it was kind of funny because there was a point in the negotiation where we were about 5,000 apart. And then I was like, I don't know, like, I kind of feel like we can lock it up. You're like, stay at your number. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't want to lose the deal. But
yeah.
I think that goes to the testament of, like, you know, you had all the experience, so you've probably seen these conversations many of times, so you knew that we had more to go.
Yeah. So anchor down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. Well, what was cool about that deal, what I loved about it was you were such a student in that moment, and then you showed up for the moment. Like, it was cool. Like, it felt like being a coach in a game, right? Being like, go run this play, like, just like this, right?
Yeah.
And then you would call me after and say, this happened, and then we would kind of talk through it. It was such a fun thing to do together, and you really took the bull by the horns, and you owned that moment, and you rose to the occasion, and it turned into an incredible deal.
Yeah, it was an awesome deal, yeah.
So now talk about, like, what also happened through the deal, because it wasn't just like a slam dunk, easy deal. Like,
no.
What else happened? What else did we have to deal with?
Yeah, so it was two houses that we were trying to sell. There was one that had two houses on one parcel, and then there's another house that we had to sell. So it was two different buyers, and we had gotten one buyer locked in, and then 2 weeks came and went, and he had a contractor go out there, and because it was two houses on one, they quoted him like a $130,000 rehab, which our investor just didn't have the stomach for that at the time.
Yeah.
So we still had kind of a ticking time clock to get the contract sold.
So we had to find another buyer now.
Exactly.
Right.
So we ended up, you had like 3 or 4 people walk it, but you live in San Diego and I live close to Chowchilla. So I kind of showed them the property, and we got another person in there. But what was crazy about that is in the contract, we had agreed that we would deliver the properties vacant.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of like negotiating with the tenants as well, because you want to make sure that if we just went through the legal process and did like a traditional eviction, it would take 60 days, you know, at minimum, not including like the notices and stuff. So anyways, we negotiated cash for keys. I just kind of said the first number that came to my head, I was like, hey, we could probably do 1,000. I used the same tactic that I used for the seller. I said, hey, I'm really trying to fight for you here. I was trying to pull them into me. And they all agreed. Everyone was on the same page. I've been following up with them. Everyone was good to move. They had the moving truck, and I wanted to make sure I did a sweep before I gave them the money, because we had an agreement, make sure everyone was out. And so I go to the back house, and then these people were not, you know, on the right stuff, but you know, they're doing their thing, they're getting out. And so I'm walking through the back, and then as I'm kind of walking back there, I kind of hear something. And it's my dad and and I'm like, Dad, I think there's someone in the shed. And he's like, no, like you're just kind of, you're hearing things. Like, all right, so whatever. So we go walk through that back house, and then we're walking out, and then I'm like, Dad, there's someone 100% in the shed. He's like, all right, well, let's go check. So we go in there, and then while we're walking up, they just come out the door, and they're like guns ablaze, and they're like, we've been living here for 3 years, like this is our home, and it's like literally a 10 by 10 just shack.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, no, you're not. Like, no one's ever told us about these people. So we call the cops, because we just assume that they're squatters. 3 years, huh? Yeah, exactly. Well, and the cops come and they say, no, that they do live here.
This is their spot.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? So, like, what do we do? And like, well, you can do a traditional eviction, or you can do a cash for keys with them. And they kind of winked at us, and we're like, okay. So
here we go.
We just did like a cash for keys for them too, and they were like our enemy. And then we said, we'll give you $500, and then they're like, oh, yes sir, like whatever. So, and we stayed there till we had to like change the locks and board it all up, but it took like. And we were there until like 10:30 at night on a Tuesday. So
you had a video of you guys with like flashlights and stuff.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Yeah. It was worth it though. It was all worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
What a good experience though, to like navigate the negotiation part, navigate dealing with tenants, cash for keys. Like there was a lot that took place there.
Yeah.
And again, like you rose to the moment each time, and it was really cool to be able to kind of from the sidelines help you and give some guidance, and then see you like just take it down and work through it. And like you said, there were some things that popped up that we had to work through, which is realistic. Like that stuff happens regularly. So
well, in real estate too, I mean, we get paid to solve problems, you know what I mean? Right. So it's a lot, usually the messiest ones are the best ones.
Exactly. So tell me, what are some of the things that have worked best for you since you joined the coaching program, right? You got some early results. you've been working through, doing some deals since. Like, what have been the things that have worked for you?
I think some of the biggest things, I mean, I'm a huge believer in cold calling. I think a lot of people don't like to do it because the phone weighs 1,000 pounds. I think it's one of the best ways to get started in the business because it doesn't cost that much, and all it really costs is your time and effort. And I think I think a lot of people focus on, I didn't realize it when I was, the first 2 years of me getting my butt kicked on the phone, I was so upset because I wasn't getting the monetary compensation, but I didn't realize I was developing a skill set to be able, so when the moment came, I was able to close the deal, and with obviously coaching and stuff, but I was able to build rapport and do all that stuff, and I think it should be such a prerequisite for people that are getting new to the business, even if they don't intend on using that as their main marketing channel, because if a lead calls you and they're ready to sell, even if it's direct mail, you need to know how to have that conversation. And so I still, to this day, I cold call all the time. I'm a huge believer in it. I think it's fun. Like I really do. And another big area that's helped us with like some of the growth that we've had in the last year has been referral and just kind of telling people about what we do. And
so big.
Yeah, you have to kind of be a walking billboard for what you do and telling everyone about what you do and how you do it and why you're trying to do it. And so that's been a huge thing. And I think the thing that has helped me the most is being around people like you guys, because I've been someone that's always lacked confidence, and kind of being around people that are doing it and seeing it on a daily basis, it kind of changes the way that you see yourself and the way that the standard that you set for yourself.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I think what you said there, just the repetitions you put in, going back to the sports analogy, right, in the background, is you put in the reps with the cold calling, and maybe you didn't get the results right then, right when you would have liked to have them, but it was the consistency you put into where when the moment came, you already had that muscle memory, those repetitions. So what are some, like, maybe a couple tips you would give somebody who is maybe shy, hesitant to do cold calling? What are some tactical X and O type tips you would give somebody that is wanting to get maybe a head start or a little edge?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing when it comes to cold calling is like, you just have to put your feelings aside. Like, it's gonna suck, and you're gonna be nervous.
Someone might be trying to hurt your feelings, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think you have to kind of go in with the expectation that it's gonna be tough. But it's like going into the gym. Like, if you're trying to go alone on motivation, like, you're just never gonna show up, because most of the time it's discipline, right? So I think you put that aside and you focus on, like, okay, I'm trying to build a skill set here. And if you focus on that, it makes it a little bit easier to palate the conversations. That being said, 100%, you have to kill the intro. A lot of people are super needy, and they try to sound so scripted, you know, and I think that you got to be yourself. A lot of times people say, you call them up and you say, hey, you know, I'm so-and-so, are you looking to sell your house? And then they say, oh, you know, no, or they're like, I'm busy right now. And they're like, okay, great. I always try to follow up with however the conversation's going, with being just as busy. They say, oh, I'm busy right now. Oh, I'm busy too. I only got a few minutes. If you want me to call back another time, I'm happy to, because you want to put yourself in a position of power. So I like to do that from the start, and I'm playful throughout the conversation. And then you go through condition. So you want to know everything about the house. You want to know the inside. You want to know the roof. Everything to do with that. And it's not just so you know about the condition, because you're probably going to walk the property anyway, but it's a really easy way for you to build rapport with the seller. With just easy questions about the house, and they already know it, right? So you get through that, and then the biggest part of a conversation that you really want to spend a lot of time in is your motivation. And so why do you want to sell? Now, a lot of people ask this question, so some sellers might have some sales resistance. So other reasons why, I mean, hey, listen, Dean, I know you probably get lots of calls, and that's why you had a little bit of hesitance when I first called you. Now, I mean, you didn't sell then. I mean, what has you thinking about maybe entertaining it now? Like, what's changed from then to now? And you want to ask these questions, and a lot of times they'll give you service level answers, and what they'll do is they'll give you little windows. They'll say things like, oh, you know, something happened to my family, or something like that. Then all you do is you just mirror them. Something happened in your family, and then they'll unpack what they said. So I think those are the biggest things that you can do in the call. Aside from that is more subcategories. Then you want to figure out their timeline of when they're looking to sell, because that's important, because that'll help you discern whether it's a warm, cold, or hot lead. Because if they want to sell like yesterday, it's a pretty hot lead. If they want to sell a year from now, that could be a smoke screen, but more than likely it's a colder lead. Then you figure out price, and then kind of from there, it's like, if you have all the motivation, price shouldn't really be as much of a factor.
Yeah. Huge, guys. If you didn't hear all that, play it back, listen to that, because some huge nuggets. You just dropped them all over the place. Yeah, that's big. I think the biggest thing you said at the beginning is where a lot of people mess it up is the intro, sounding too scripted and sounding needy, right? Because, man, I just hear it too often on the other side of the phone call as the person picking up the phone. When I get a cold call, I automatically know it's a cold call.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you don't even sound like you want to be on this call, right?
100%.
So the barrier to entry is generally pretty low.
Yeah.
So if you can just show up with some energy, some intent, some confidence, right? You gain the control with all the tips you said are huge for sure.
I want to use an analogy before we hop off this topic. I always like to say, especially for people that are newer, because you have to really understand, like, not to be needy and why you don't. And so I like to always use stories to tell people like what this is like. So if you come off needy and you're like sound scripted on the phone, I equate it to if a girl's at a bar and then a guy walks up to her and he's like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend?
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, get the hell away from me, you creep. That's not what you do, right? You don't just rip right into the, do you want to sell or you sound scripted? Like, you have to build trust with them and you have to be confident and just have a conversation with them. And if you treat it like a conversation, like you're having a conversation with a friend at lunch, you'll have a much better way of getting through the phone. And the higher the talk time, the more likely you'll build rapport and the more likely they'll trust you and likely do business with you.
Yeah. Talk time is huge for me. Like, the more you can be on the phone with somebody, if you can look at your phone and you're like 30, 40 minutes deep into a call and you're still having meaningful conversation, like, okay, you're unless you didn't ask the right motivation questions, unless you aren't asking the right questions, like, you're probably on to a hot, motivated lead.
100%.
Right? So talk time's a huge one. So guys, lots of great nuggets. We're going to get back to you after this break.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I wanted to take a moment to tell you about my coaching program and the community. Besides teaching you exactly what we're doing in our multiple 7-figure real estate investing business, we also have several group coaching calls a week, and I give you my personal cell phone so you can text me whenever you need help. Now, if you're ready to take things to the next level, click the link down below in the description to apply. Now let's get back to the podcast. Let's go.
All right, now that we're done freezing our tits off, let's hop back in this golf cart and go grab some food. What do you say?
Man, we're tipping appetite.
The cold got me hungry, right? All right, so we're back here, and I want to talk to you, kind of find out a little bit more, like, what's working for you right now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the sunset.
I'd say the biggest things that are working for us that we're going to be doubling down a lot more in 2024. Cold calling is a great strategy, but it's a longer term strategy. We're noticing that leads are taking anywhere from 6 to 9 months to really kind of close, unless they're unicorn deals.
Yep.
The biggest thing that's been working for us that we're going to be continuing to do a lot more of is referral. And kind of reaching out to our network, taking people out to lunch, like attorneys, things like people that are kind of movers and shakers in our market, and really telling them about what we do and giving back more to the community so we become more top of mind. And so I think we're going to be developing that a lot more this year, as well as doing a lot more direct mail. So, but the things that have worked most for us in 2023 was for sure cold calling and for sure reaching out to our network and people bringing us deals and doing partnerships.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, this is the kind of pivot point where you can really shift and take things to the next level.
Yeah. Is
dialing in some of those marketing strategies, right?
Yeah.
And then as your skills are already leveling up, as they have been, right, layered in with those additional marketing, that's, for me, every pivot point of where I went to the next level was always marketing.
Yeah.
Always marketing. So, because like your skills are already there. You know what I mean? So it's just, now it's the confidence of marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Before it's confidence in like taking the action and the communication. Now it's just the confidence of marketing.
For sure.
So that's the advice I'll give you at this moment.
Well, I think it gets a little bit scary because you kind of, in the beginning, you're just a hustler, right? You're just like, it's all dependent on your time. And I think the transition that we're getting at now, it's like you have to go from hustler to operator. Yeah. And I want to operate a business that I'm constantly having marketing channels out there working for me so that it's not constantly dependent on me. But to do that, you have to spend money and be willing to trust the process, you know?
Yeah. We got a killer sunset going on right now.
That's freaking awesome.
Check that out right there. Jeez, dude. Now, like, we're in like the winter months, on like a little bit more cloudy day, like a month or two ago, usually the sunset just like bangs hard.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole sky is just orange and purples and all that kind of stuff.
I gotta say, this just reminds me so much of Fresno.
It makes you feel like you're back home. You feel like you're home right now. Yep. But no, man, this is what it's all about. Is like being able to do some fun stuff like this.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So, tell me, like, for someone that's just getting started listening to this, right? They've heard your story. They kind of heard how you've kind of navigated and worked through some of this stuff. What do you feel are some of like the best pieces of advice you could give to somebody?
Man, I think I really want to give good advice here. It sounds cliche, but I think that you have to have a longer time horizon and realize that like the activities that you commit to are going to be building you into the person that can handle the type of success once you're there. I actually heard this weekend from a buddy of mine that Carlos Reyes said this, but he said you have to be a 7-figure man before you can be a 7-figure earner.
I think I've seen him post that and talk about it. It's so true.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is like, for me now looking back, I'm so grateful I got my ass kicked for the first couple of years because it gave me the thick skin, it gave me the confidence behind the phones. Yeah. So I think that if you're just starting out, I would focus less on the money and I would focus on more on who you're becoming along the way because it makes each day a lot more exciting. And then when the money does come, you're ready for it.
Yeah, it's hard, man. When you're first getting started, usually you need results pretty quick because most people aren't starting with a bunch of money.
True.
Right? Like you need some results. So having that long-term mindset can be hard and difficult.
I very much agree. The caveat I'll say to that is if you want to shortcut your time horizon, there's two things you can do. You can either commit to more work or you can pay the money to connect yourself with people that have been there, done that are willing to give you their time, which is kind of what we did with you.
Right.
You know, and we're continuing to constantly.
You guys are continuing to reinvest in your learning and education 100%. And your circle of people. Like that's what you need to do. And for me, it took me a while to learn that. Part of why in my journey, my first 5 years, I struggled and like was having to overcome these obstacles that I was creating. Like I was making mistakes.
Yeah.
Was because I convinced myself I didn't have enough money to invest in myself. And you've been investing in yourself early.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt that that's gonna like propel you so much further ahead.
100%.
You know?
The thing that like has really concreted it for me, why I'm okay with doing that is like, I think the biggest advantage that I have is being young. But like, I was willing to go to college, and if I was willing to do that because I thought that was an investment in my career, like doing this by learning by people that have actually been there, done that, and the skill that I'm actually trying to learn is going to serve me way, way better. So it's a one-time investment, but you get the lifetime ROI.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's been super fun to like do this with you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've been somebody that's added like so much value to the community and continue to. You know, like when you and your dad joined the coaching program, that was a really cool moment for me because you guys were already people that were involved in the community, respected, and to, you know, trust to spend time with me and to learn and grow together was really cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, appreciate you, appreciate your dad. And like, I know that there's just like so much more that we're going to do together.
100%.
And collectively, you know, me, you, others, to continue to like pour into our community, to grow the community, and to like take it even further.
Yeah.
Right? Take it even further, because what I realized when I started the coaching program was it was now not just a Central California thing, it was now a nationwide thing, right?
Yeah.
The impact could be that much more. So I think you're a big part of that, and appreciate you for everything you do, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give you your flowers too, because I mean,
you brought flowers for me?
No.
Come on, dude.
Figurative flowers for you.
Right.
But no, I was texting you the other day, and I mean, the deal that we closed in January, I mean, just like all the help, you gave me so much more confidence in closing that deal, and I don't know if I would have been able to do that myself, and I definitely would not have been able to do it for the price we got it for.
Yeah.
And that, it wasn't even about the money, but just closing that like completely shattered all of my beliefs of what was possible. And it really was the catalyst for what I felt like gave me the confidence in the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And there's still so much more room to grow, and there's a lot of areas in which I want to grow, but I do want to give you your flowers and say thank you for allowing us and pouring in, because I think the one thing that has been super valuable for me is like, you're like a legit coach. Like, it reminded me so much of being on the wrestling team, because like I could go to you and like have like an actual thing that I wanted to work, and you're like, try this. You know, whereas like it wasn't like you were just giving me a course and you say, okay, run with the course and that's it. See you later, alligator. You know, you take your money and run. But it was like you were actually trying to develop me and you care. And I just want to say thank you. And I super appreciate that, because it's been a huge catalyst for me in my journey. And like, I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for your help.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too.
Cool, guys. All right, until next time. Peace.
Peace. I couldn't imagine growing up in San Diego. It's so crazy.
I know, right? I like tell myself all the time when I think about moving somewhere else that's less expensive, and I could live on like a fifth of the cost. And then I'm like, man, I'm gonna grind it out so my freaking boys can grow up here.
Yeah.
And freaking see this all the time.